The Roman Empire did not always require swords and spears to subdue its enemies. Often, they needed only a single privilege to turn brother against brother. While history frequently extols the might of the Roman legions, with their iconic rectangular shields and ironclad discipline, Rome's most formidable weapon was never forged of iron or steel. Instead, it was tempered by greed, envy, and sheepskin parchments bearing the hollow name of peace. Divide et impera, divide and rule, was far more than a mere military tactic. It was a supreme masterclass in dark psychology. In this game, the Romans played the role of the noble spectator, tossing a single scrap of meat into a pack of hungry wolves and coldly watching as they mauled one another to the point of exhaustion. The Roman Empire was never so naive as to march blindly into a foreign land and declare war on everyone at once. That was the way of brutish men who possessed strength but lacked strategy. The politicians of the Senate and cunning generals like Julius Caesar understood that while a bundle of sticks is unbreakable, if taken apart one by one, they become nothing more than brittle twigs, easily snapped under a boot heel. The first step in this lethal snare was the illusion of priority. When Rome set its sights on a fertile territory like Gaul, home to hundreds of disparate tribes, they did not immediately deploy an army. Instead, they sent envoys, crates of premium wine, and promises as sweet as wild forest honey. Rome would select a single tribe, not necessarily the strongest, but certainly the most ambitious, and bestow upon them the prestigious title of friend and ally of the Roman people. That title was a poisonous injection into the lifeblood of the entire region. An individually signed treaty brought the chosen tribe privileges their neighbors could only dream of: direct trade routes with Rome, tax exemptions, military aid, and, most importantly, the intoxicating sense of being more civilized than those living on the other side of the hill. Chieftains of the favored tribe began to drape themselves in ill-fitting togas, drink wine from silver chalices, and look upon their neighboring kinsmen with disdain. Rome planted the seed in their minds that they were the chosen ones, the favored children of a great empire, whose mission was to govern those of lower status. Yet, every favor carries a price, and here the cost was paid not in gold, but in the blood of their own people. When one tribe was elevated, the others were instantly plunged into a pit of inferiority and fear. This was the fuse of jealousy, calculated by Rome down to the very last breath. The tribes left behind, those who had not received the Roman nod, began to perceive an existential threat. They watched their neighbors grow wealthy and their military power swell through Roman aid. Fear began to permeate every meal and every night's sleep. They dreaded the day their neighbor would use Roman steel to annex their lands. From this fear, hatred sprouted like poisonous mushrooms after a rainfall. Instead of recognizing Rome as the common invader looming on the horizon, these tribes turned on one another with daggers in their eyes. Why were the Aedui favored while the Sequani were ignored? Why did some drink fine wine while others drank plain water? Envy blinded them all. Rome skillfully fanned these flames with misinformation. Roman spies would whisper into the ear of one chieftain that another was plotting a betrayal, or that Rome had truly wished to befriend him, but his rival had sabotaged the alliance. Thus, a desperate race for Rome's favor began, or, conversely, a war to destroy the favored tribe to restore the balance of power. Regardless of the path taken, the outcome remained the same. The Gallic tribes, who should have stood shoulder to defend their homeland, now viewed each other as mortal enemies. The dance of the puppets had officially begun, choreographed by the invisible hands of those in crimson cloaks. Julius Caesar, a master of manipulation, applied this tactic with bone-chilling effectiveness in Gaul. When he first arrived, he found a land fractured by internal strife. Caesar recognized the cracks immediately. Rather than rushing to attack, he observed, listened, and identified the weaknesses in the relationships between the tribes. He befriended the Aedui, promising to protect them against the encroachment of the Helvetii and the Germanic tribes. The Aedui, intoxicated by this illusory power, rushed to throw open their borders and invite the Roman legions in. They believed they were borrowing the hand of a giant to quell local chaos, never suspecting they were leading a tiger into their own home. Caesar entered Gaul not as a conqueror, but as a protector and peacekeeper, responding to the pleas of an ally. As war erupted between the tribes, Rome did not intervene to end it. Instead, they maintained a bloody stalemate, funneling just enough weaponry to one side while momentarily ignoring the other, ensuring that both sides bled as profusely as possible. It was the calculated cruelty of a gardener pruning a tree, cutting away the unnecessary branches so the trunk would grow only according to his design. The brave Gallic warriors, children of the ancient forests, tore at each other in a killing frenzy. Their blood stained the rivers crimson, their corpses piled high in the valleys. The Sequani fought the Aedui. The Arverni clashed with the Aedui. They fought over land, trade routes, and, above all, status in the eyes of Rome. They were so consumed by their bloody civil wars that they forgot a simple truth. For every Gallic warrior who fell, the collective resistance of their nation withered. Caesar stood atop the hills, calmly surveying the chessboard. He did not need to exhaust his own forces. His enemies were doing his work for him with their own hands. Rome's cunning was further evidenced by their commitment to an image of righteousness. When a tribe became too aggressive toward its neighbors, Rome would appear as an impartial judge, punishing the wicked to protect the weak. In reality, that punishment served to eliminate defiant leaders, and that protection was an iron cage for their freedom. The tribes rescued by Rome would owe an eternal debt of gratitude, voluntarily becoming vassals and surrendering their land and wealth to repay the favor. It was a debt that could never be settled. By the time the tribes realized the truth, it was too late. Gaul was exhausted. Its youth had been decimated by incessant civil war. Its granaries were empty, and its villages lay in ashes. Only then did Rome begin its cold harvest. The Roman legions moved in to take full control, meeting almost no resistance. Those capable of bearing arms had already died by the blades of their own brothers, or were too weary to lift a shield ever again. The tribes once favored by Rome, who believed they would share in the spoils of power, realized with horror that they were merely sacrificial pawns whose utility had expired. When Vercingetorix, the brilliant young leader of the Arverni, finally attempted to unite the tribes against Caesar in a last stand, suspicion had already burrowed too deep into the Gallic psyche. That forced unity was as fragile as morning mist. Even in their final hour, the chieftains cast suspicious glances at one another, fearing their neighbor would sell them out to regain favor with Caesar. Internal division proved to be the fatal blow that caused the uprising to collapse. Rome triumphed not just through the strength of iron discipline, but through a dark understanding of the human condition. They knew that envy is an acid that corrodes every alliance, and that favors dispensed in droplets are the most addictive of drugs. Individual treaties, economic privileges, and hollow titles were the invisible strings Rome used to bind the necks of the tribes, jerking them into a dance of death. Roman dominance over new lands always began with the smile of an envoy and ended with the deathly silence of a deserted battlefield. They transformed free lands into obedient provinces where the people bowed their heads to pay taxes and provide slaves, their strength to resist utterly spent. The price of division was eternal enslavement. The story of Rome's divide et impera is more than a dusty historical footnote. It is a costly lesson and a haunting warning about the necessity of unity and trust. Looking back at how Caesar manipulated the vast expanse of Gaul, one cannot help but shudder at the ruthlessness of such peak political intelligence. Without the need for excessive force, through simple intrigue and the exploitation of greed and fear, an entire nation surrendered its freedom to an invader. The sound of the wind whistling through ancient Roman ruins still seems to carry the sighs of the Gallic souls, those who died not from an enemy's blade, but from their own blindness. These mossy, ruined walls stand as a testament to an era where intrigue was sharper than steel, and where words possessed more destructive power than 10,000 arrows. And so, the Roman Empire quietly swallowed the world, not by devouring it whole, but by dividing the prey into small pieces, allowing each part to wither away before sliding down the gullet of the monster. It was a perfect strategy, ruthless and steeped in tragic poetry, leaving behind a chilling truth. The most fearsome enemy does not always stand before us. Sometimes, they stand right beside us, nurtured by the hand of the one smiling from afar.